It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at AmericasVoiceNow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host this morning. I am your host every morning. I want to address a couple of issues. There's 4 topics we're going to address today. As you know, we're on our new 4-hour or a 2-hour format. And our show today is going to incorporate a couple of different topics. One, the Obamacare, which is looming on October 1st. Most Americans are not aware of exactly how dangerous this is for us, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. The second is Justin Amish's declaration today, or revelation, that the NSA vote, which was held by the House, there was a lot of information that was withheld from the representatives when they voted on that. And so we're going to address that topic as well. The third is Benghazi and the revelation that there were 400 surface-to-air missiles that are missing. That will be our third segment, which essentially backs up the claim that this was really all about gun running and not anything at all to do with the video and all the other nonsense that they threw out there at us. And then fourth and final, our journalist qualifications topic. You know, Feinstein has come out and indicated that if you're not a real journalist unless you're fully paid and you're one of the mainstream media. And I've been warning about this because I suspect that what's going to ultimately come out of this kind of thing is that we're going to be told, for all intents and purposes, that you're not provided with First Amendment protection if you are not a journalist that is, hired by one of the mainstream media organizations, a newspaper, a television show, or whatever the case may be. And of course, my concern with that is deep, in the sense that the goal of all of that is to minimize the impact that journalists, whether they are paid by a mainstream organization or not, can handle. So let's go over and let's start from the very beginning. I want to address this issue about Obamacare and the exchanges. First and foremost, be aware that right now, Obamacare is required implementation for anyone who is alive and well, and that is required on October 1st. Sorry, I was just checking something there. And here's the problem. One, everyone who signs up for it will give it legitimacy. And I want to make sure that we understand that as American citizens, we have a right to refuse to participate in unethical, illegal, and outright shameful unconstitutional law. So what I want you to understand is that today, now, here, is your opportunity to refuse to participate and play. In other words, if all of us refuse to participate in the program, then for all intents and purposes, it will come apart like a house of cards. And that is the goal. Since we can't get the House to defund it because the Senate won't allow the vote to go forward, and they voted to defund it or repeal it 40 times, people. 40 times. Since we can't seem to get them to repeal it, the next best thing that we can do is kill it. And the best way to kill it is to make sure that no one is signing up for it. I mean, isn't that the appropriate methodology for us to take? Let's make sure that we're destroying this thing by not allowing anyone to have our information. Now, there's a couple of things that you need to recognize about this. One, that's a civil disobedience position, and it's one which I've advocated for a long, long time. Massive, peaceful, civil disobedience. But you can do this in small doses, too, and this is one of them. Refuse to sign up for Obamacare. One, the data hub is not secure. We know that because, one, they haven't even tested their own security settings. Two, McConnell has come out, and I don't when I quote a congressman or a senator or whatever, just because I'm quoting them, don't make any mistakes about believing that I support or believe that that is the appropriate representative. But for the record, the security testing for Obamacare is so many months behind schedule that they've actually determined that they're going to test it the day before it goes live. Yes, you heard me right. The day before it goes live. Now, that tells me that they have no methodology by which to protect you and protect your secure private communications and all of the information which you are going to submit. And remember, this isn't just your health information. This is all of your medical records. It's also all health information, but it's also all of your financial information. And the amount of data that you're going to have to submit to them is so enormous that this will fill in any holes in the dossier that the NSA is building on you. And I suggest that the right thing for America to do is say, we're just not going to play. That's it. We're not going to participate. And it's so important that we do this that I can't encourage you strongly enough to share this video and or this audio cast with people that you know. Because if we do it in massive numbers, it will come apart at the seams. I don't care if it's the law. And the reason I say that is because we know that our founders have reportedly stated to us over and over and over again that any law which is passed, which is extra-constitutional in its nature, is null and void on its face. It's not a law at all. And we need to start acting like we really, truly care what happens with this republic. I mean, we're so far over the edge at this point that, we're almost beyond political. In fact, I think we are beyond political salvage. The real question now is how much further can this thing slide before it's so outside of our control, there's nothing that we can do. And I would submit to you that I really don't think at this stage in the game that there's anything that we can do to preserve this politically. What it's going to take is a massive rise of civil disobedience from Americans who are going to say, we're not going to sign up for Obamacare. We're not going to, and you know what? We're not going to play these games with you. We're not going to do what you tell us to do. Listen, people, it's up to us. There is nobody else. We are the last stop here. Every day, waves upon waves upon waves of more regulation, tyranny, abuse comes out. They're stating today that they have to actually delay until 2015 a significant consumer protection in the law that limits how much people may have to spend on their own health care. I mean, guys, this thing isn't anywhere near ready for prime time. But they're rolling it out anyway, and they don't really care about you. That's the point. This is all about a massive power grab and a massive database they will need to build on you. So thwart them in their efforts. Just don't sign up. Don't sign up for the data hub. Don't give them your personal information. Refuse to participate. That is your right as an American. You may not necessarily recognize that, but it is your right. Just don't play. It's that simple. Sebelius actually came out. She's the director of HHS. And she's actually come out trying to defend the position that this is really not a bait and switch. The fact that she's got to come out and argue that point tells you that it is a bait and switch. We know that it's a bait and switch. Reid came out yesterday, Senator Reid came out and said, this is the first step to a single-payer universal health care plan. Guys, recognize what single-payer universal health care is. It is a mandatory plank that must be accomplished in Marxist and fascist government totalitarianism. Why? Because they need that information and that data and that control over you. In our case, the United States of America, our economy, 1/6 of our economy, and it's probably far greater than that, actually, if you take into all the outer areas, 1/6, perhaps as much as 1/5 of our economy is healthcare. When you control healthcare, you control that entire 1/5 of the economy. So that ought to tell you that the fact is, without that capability, without all of the information and the record keeping that they get on you, and without your money, and without that hold on the economy, that stranglehold, there is nothing that they can do to you. We should be doing everything that we can to act subversively to thwart these types of plans. Yes, actively. We must be civilly disobedient in a peaceful way, but it is imperative and it is incumbent on us to be peacefully, civilly disobedient. We refuse to go to the back of the bus. We refuse to drink out of that fountain. We refuse to use that bathroom. We refuse to sign up for Obamacare. We refuse to do the things they demand that we do, which we know are against our best interest. Just stop doing it. If we don't starve this beast, it won't be long before we will be completely and totally out of control with all of our own best interests. I mean, right now, as it stands, we are already so far out of control that, as I said earlier, I don't think that there is a political solution to this. What that requires, then, is that we accomplish some sort of massive civil, peaceful disobedience. That's really the only option that we have. The question is, will we take that and run with that, or won't we? Ultimately, if we just choose not to run with that, we are left with one other alternative. And that, folks, is going to be one that no one wants to go. No one wants to go there. What is there? There is a destruction of the republic itself. The end of the Union. The end of the republic. It will descend into chaos and factions and war and civil war, and it will never heal from that. Not in our great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren's lifetimes. That's not a risk that we can take. But we can pull back today and fight. So I think it's imperative that we understand the true depth to where this goes. They don't have security and privacy on these exchanges. Your plausible argument for not being willing to sign up is they have dropped the ball completely. The security testing, and this is an article from Reuters, okay? McConnell says, don't open the Obamacare exchanges if privacy isn't protected. The security testing for Obamacare is months behind schedule. And Michael Astrew, the former HHS General Counsel and Social Security Commissioner, warned the Weekly Standard that unless delayed and fixed, the Obamacare exchanges will inflict on the public the most widespread violation of the Privacy Act in our history. This is a guy who's from the HHS directly previous. He's out now. I mean, the warning bells are there. What more do you need as a motivation to say, I'm not going to play? You're giving that information out is opening you up not just to the development of the dossier by the NSA and the federal government, but also opening your personal information up to data thieves. That's where the privacy problem lies, is the system isn't secure. And if it's not secure, you're wide open to being nailed. That means people will be applying for credit in your name. That means they'll be trying to hack into your bank accounts. I don't know about you, but I'm not going there. I don't have much to steal, and I don't have, my credit's not so great that they're going to go out there and apply and buy a Mercedes-Benz on it and drive off into the wild blue yonder. But I got to tell you, we are at a position where we each need to lend our weight to a massive, peaceful civil disobedience. Will you help? Will you play? Will you participate? Or will you stand with us in revolt against something we all know to be tyranny? It is tyranny. This has been shoved down your throat, like it or not. Yes, there are good aspects to it. But you see, you can't preserve the overall project when 99% of it is against your best interest. If you like the thing that says, well, my 26-year-old can stay on my health insurance, okay, then repeal Obamacare and pass that single piece of legislation. You don't have to do this in wholesale mass. That's the same thing they're doing with immigration, and it's the same problem. You see, you're far better off with a bunch of small bills. See what the response is. See what kind of unintended consequences come from those small passages, and then move on to the larger picture. But you do it in stages. Just like you're afraid to take this country back because you don't know what that's going to mean, we shouldn't be so quick to jump off the cliff, not knowing how deep the water is or how far down below us it really is in healthcare, in immigration, in surveillance, in monitoring, in blanket power to this authoritarian regime. You see, you can't hold one principle for one area, but not hold that same principle for others. It just goes to show that this administration wants to sit and tell you that you should wholesale jump off the cliff with them on Obamacare and monitoring and surveillance and safety and all of these other areas. But yet when you say what we really need to do is a wholesale change back to a constitutional republic, you're an extremist. Is that right? Is that fair? Ask yourself those questions and then make a determination as to whether or not you are going to play in that arena. Personally, I believe that every one of us should stand down and say, we're just not going to do it. We're not going to participate. And by our lack of participation, we will effectively bring down the house of cards. We will be the strong wind that forces it to collapse. I hope that Americans across the nation recognize that with the advent of Obamacare, we will have lost another major battle in the overall war to restore our nation. I'm not sure people really understand that each of these areas are small battles in the overall war. And battles they are, and a war this is. You see, each of these is a skirmish. Some are big skirmishes, Obamacare, NSA monitoring, dossiers being built on Americans. Some are small. But you see, either way, they all add up in some totality to a war for the very life of our nation, a war for the very life of our Republican form of government. The question is, will you allow things to slide down into tyranny, or will you help us restore this nation? There are really only two options. There's no middle ground anymore. There's no more sitting on fences. There's no more waiting for a knight in shining armor to ride up on a white horse and save us. If we're to be saved, you will do the saving. I will do the saving. Your neighbor, your family, your friends, your coworkers. We collectively will do the saving. There are no other alternatives. And there is no one in the Senate or in the House or in any form of government that's going to save us from ourselves. Proof of that is Eric Snowden. Here's a guy who stepped forward, put his own life on the line, his future for sure. He put his family at risk, his fiancée or his girlfriend or whatever she was at risk. And he knew, without any equivocation, that what he was doing was, for all intents and purposes, damning himself for the remainder of his natural life. Why would he do such a thing? Because he felt strongly enough about the principles and the convictions that he held that he was willing to stand up with courage in the face of adversity. He's been called a tyrant, a terrorist, a traitor. He's been called a hero. He's been called a patriot. I lean towards the patriot. I believe that the man is a patriot. He's not a hero. He's a patriot. Because he's not a hero because this is what we, as patriots, should be willing to do. This is what we, as great Americans, should be willing to do. Sacrifice our own personal best interests to restore and preserve our form of Republican government. And that's really all there is left for us, isn't it? Anything else to the contrary, and we're really not able to move forward. As much as this president would like to use the phrase forward, we are not moving forward. Not in a direction that will advance America's interests. Not in a direction that will advance and protect your interests, your life, your livelihood, your business, your home, your possessions, your rights, your right to free speech, your right to redress your grievances with your government. You know, they claim that he should have come out and notified Congress. We can't get Congress to act on proof that Obama's birth certificate is not his birth certificate. What do you think they would have done with that information from Edward Snowden? What do you think they would have done with Snowden's data? They would have buried it. They would have covered it up. Or they would have said, we can't possibly let this get out to the common people. That's why he had to take that giant step that he knew was a step tossing him off the cliff. Now, when I say not to participate in Obamacare, I'm not asking you to jump off a cliff. I'm asking you to take a step with us. It's one step. Yes, it's a step in the right direction. You're not jumping off a cliff. You're merely saying, by the tens of millions of Americans, we will not go quietly. We will not participate. We will not give you our information. We will not cooperate. We will no longer go to the back of the bus. We will no longer drink from that fountain. We will drink from any fountain we choose. We need tens of millions of civilly minded patriots to just stand up and say no. I'm reminded of Nancy Reagan. Just say no. Is that not where we are? Just say no. No to Obamacare. No to surveillance. No to tyranny. In our next segment, we're going to cover Justin Amash, who says that the NSA's information was withheld. I'm also going to cover two other topics, including video that I posted up on our Facebook and YouTube page. Please find that. You've got to see this video. It's an 8-minute video that will make you so angry that you're going to want to cut your cable. You can watch it and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about, because it is so tyrannical, so treasonous, you'll be stunned by what you find out. This shows you that back in the 60s, they were doing subliminal mind control on us by showing us the national anthem and hiding words in there. Please make sure that you find it.